Thank you to GSC for being this video's patron. If you want to pick what topic I do next, support me on Patreon in the link below. If I were to ask you what Yugi's ace monster was, what would you say? Dark Magician, Summoned Skull, Gaia. With early Yu-Gi-Oh, it was less about archetypes and more about powerful, good cards. And the DM series did a good job reflecting this with the characters' decks. And no card in Yugi's deck represents this mentality of good mishmash stuff better than BLS. Let's talk about it. Now, while today, BLS might be seen as nothing more than nostalgia bait, back in the early days of Yu-Gi-Oh! It was a true force to be feared. Not normal BLS, absolutely not, this thing is awful. But at the beginning, this card defined a generation of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. Coming out on March 1st, 2004 for TCG, and April 24th, 2003 for OCG, this almost 20-year-old card has simple but powerful effects. It can be summoned by banishing a light and dark from the grave, and once per turn, you can either choose to attack twice if you attacked a monster this turn, or banish a monster at the cost of attacking. A very simple effect. But if Pot of Greed has taught us anything, it's that the more simple an effect is, the more broken it is. Absolutely warping the meta around it. In the GOAT era, you were either playing BLS in your deck, or you were playing a gimmick deck. I'd argue that is Yu-Gi-Oh's first generic boss monster, where cards like CED and Yada were just as, if not more powerful, they shaped the deck around them, rather than slotting into pre-existing decks like BLS was able to do. And this was pretty cool. Being a one of, it felt fair. You wouldn't see it too much, but when you did see it, it was a huge swing of momentum in your favor, and then it was banned. In October 2005 came the ban list that ended GOAT format, banning not just BLS but other stable cards of the format like Pot of Greed, Sinister Serpent, and Tribe Infecting Virus. BLS would remain on the list banned for close to 6 years. The game continued to grow without it though, introducing archetypes like the Gladiator Beast and new summoning mechanics like Synchro or Xyz summoning. BLS was a special card, and now the game was becoming where every card was a BLS able to special summon it. The power level of the game had finally caught up to BLS. So in December of 2011, Konami decided to limit this forbidden card. Many players thought that this would be bad for the game, being too powerful of a card, despite cards like Black Rose Dragon and Ally of Justice Catastrophe being staples of the formats for many years. And it's easy to say they're wrong, but with BLS showing up in 25 of the top 32 deck lists of YCS Toronto the following month, including 3 of the top 4 decks, could it be argued that they were right? Well, I don't think so, because in the following event, YCS Atlanta 2012, the number of BLS went down from being in 25 of the top decks to only being in 18 of them. Still over half to be fair, but the highest ranking it made was top 8, so I think it's fair to say that the power level of Yu-Gi-Oh had mellowed out to the point where BLS had become an acceptable threat. So when in 2013 many players were asking for it to be rebanned, their complaints were ignored. It wasn't going anywhere. In fact, we were about to get a lot more of BLS. A few months before May of 2013, VJump releases a poll for Japanese readers. The poll was to vote on iconic monster cards that should get a new version. Among the choices were Time Wizard, Barrel Dragon, and Dark Magician Girl. So in May, it was revealed that out of all these cards, BLS had won. And around June of that same year, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of Twilight, had been revealed to the world. Being a follow-up to one of the most influential monsters in the early game, Twilight had big shoes to fill. And while America would get it early through Shonen Jump promo in August 2014, the rest of the TCG would have to wait until Astral Pack 8 in October 2015 to receive it. And for the 2 years of waiting and build-up, when Twilight was finally available to the world, it was meh. You can't banish a light and dark for it like you would with classic BLS. You need to have an equal number of both in your grave and banish all of one or the other. And depending on if you banish lights or darks, you can banish a card in the field or a card in your opponent's hand and not be able to attack that turn for either. This is fair, which isn't what represents the legacy of BLS. To be a true successor of BLS, you need to be a little broken and a little splashable in anything. By needing specific graveyard setup, even more precise than Dad required, Twilight just wasn't worth running for its subpar effects. Well, moving forward a month after the worldwide release of Twilight, Dimension Chaos was coming out with a whole new archetype to support BLS, complete with a new boss, Blackluster Soldier Super Soldier. A ritual? Oh, supporting the classic BLS. Alright, well I'm sure some of those support will work for the good one. No? Very ritual focused? Even the two light and dark little ones? Alright, well, the very next set, Breakers of Shadow, brings us back with a Chaos BLS. Blackluster Soldier Sacred Soldier is interesting. It's not a new boss to replace classic BLS, more of a card you pair with it. It has no way to special itself, but when you do summon it, you can target a later dark you banished, most likely from bringing out BLS, and a card on your opponent's field. Return that card to the grave and banish your opponent's card, and it has a warrior recursion effect to mix with the Gaia cards, which they weirdly tried to mix with BLS for some reason, I'm not sure why. Not being a powerful card itself, only existing to support BLS, again, doesn't live up to the legacy. It needs to be in a specific deck to work. Is there no way to recapture what BLS was in modern Yu-Gi-Oh? Do we just need to stick with the classic? 2 years later, on the September 2017 ban list, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning, was moved on the Forbidden and Limited list from limited to semi-limited, and no one really seemed to care. Most ban list reactions to it were similar to how we would react to Skullcrew Bat Joker today. Oh, okay, we expected that.
BLS, Luster Pendulum, Mathematician, Bryanak, Librarian, Brain Control, Burial, El Shaddai Fusion, and Prep.
And with BLS not showing up in a single deck list of YCS Prog the following month, it should come as no surprise that it came to 3 on the very next ban list of February in 2018.
That's, again, 2 didn't do anything, so that's maybe for, like, BA.
By this point, the game had progressed past BLS. What was once a unique boss had just been power crept, and its legacy all but forgotten, seen as nothing but a relic of the past, all support of it just further cementing the false idea that it's just an anime bait card. And then in 2019, we finally got the first glimpse of what could be the successor to BLS. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos came out in July 2019, being a Link 3 needing any 3 differently named monsters. And if you make it with a level 7 or higher monster, it becomes immune to targeting and destruction. If it destroys a monster by battle, you can have it either gain 1500 attack, make a second attack the next battle phase, or banish a card in the field. This is so close. Had this been released in the first year of Links alongside Borreload, I feel like this could have been a worthy successor to BLS's legacy, but coming out when it did, it wasn't powerful enough for the game at the time. 3 monsters for a Link 3 is a big investment, and a level 7 or higher for its protection, only some decks can utilize that effect. And the second effect being next turn is what the final nail in the coffin is. That's just too slow for Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2019. So, is that it? Is there no true successor to the legacy that BLS started? Well, I wouldn't say that. While not being a BLS by name, I feel cards like Apollosa or Boral Sword or Access Code Talker carry on that legacy to the modern day. Being Link monsters, they're incredibly easy to bring out, letting almost any deck make one of them. Apollosa being up to 4 monster negates, while Boral Sword and Access Code are OTK tools, is the same fair, overpowered feeling that BLS had back in the day. If you're able to get them out, you're in the lead of the game, just like how you were if you got BLS out in GOAT format. I think while the BLS archetype itself wasn't able to carry on the legacy, much like how Yu-Gi-Oh! Caught up to the power level of BLS back in 2011, Yu-Gi-Oh! Itself was able to carry on BLS's legacy by making cards like Access Code commonplace in the meta. Thank you for watching. I'd appreciate if you subscribed.